Welcome to Subject to Change, a sustainability podcast.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Jodi Smits-Anderson, and you've joined us at Subject to Change. As we get going, I'm going to turn this over to Lauren in a second. I want to remind you that sometime during this video, there'll be a nice little logo in the lower right side when you're looking at the screen. Click on that to subscribe to the channel and join us for more great conversations. Lauren.
Hey guys, as you know, I'm Lauren Stanek, Jodi's partner in crime on this podcast, and I'm so excited to be kicking off 2021 with an exceptional guest. She's been a friend, a mentor to me for years, and as we're all moving forward into a new year with, new goals, I thought she would be the perfect guest to kick things off with. So with us today is Melissa O'Mara with the Leaders Collab. Melissa, welcome.
Our guest, Melissa O'Mara, who's speaking about authenticity and working with teams.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. What a nice little surprise to get in my inbox a couple of days ago. An invitation to a podcast to talk about the stuff I care the most about. Oh, darn.
Learning from the pandemic.
Did you learn anything from the pandemic that you know that you want to move forward with?
It's interesting. I've been doing a lot of facilitation of groups, small groups, leadership teams, et cetera, throughout. And then I also part of a community of small business owners. And we just did a reflection yesterday in this group. If you're a small business owner, I really, now I have to think of the name of it. It's the What Works Network.
The What Works Network.
The host of that, Tara, was taking us through a process yesterday, and we did small group breakouts. It's nice when I'm not the facilitator and I'm not the coach as well. An overarching theme in this audience, this group, mostly women, actually, business owners, was that we use this time really wisely to develop ourselves, to develop our businesses, to get clear. Like, we had more time to invest in our own development and our own businesses and ourselves, as well as in, people decluttered, people planted gardens, people got to things that they never, quote unquote, had time for. And there was a lot of appreciation for that.
This podcast is a product of the COVID pause.
Well, it's even this YouTube endeavor that Lauren and I are engaged in. This is really a product of the COVID months, knowing that we weren't going to be able to see each other in person, and we weren't going to be able to see the people that inspire us in person. So how can we turn the limits that we were experiencing into a regenerative process to find an even better answer for the moment? And I think I'm finding this incredibly exciting as we go on. So
agreed. One of my things was I had gotten so far away from doing a lot of research, and what this has allowed for me to do is, instead of having to do a lot of hands-on research, it can start with just a simple discussion where I'm getting a little bit of an education with each one of the people that we're interviewing and speaking with. And then from there, I can kind of dial into additional topics that I find of interest and that I want to explore further.
Leaders Collab.
So, Melissa, can you talk to our audience a bit about what the Leaders Collab is and what it is that you specifically do?
Yeah. So the Leaders Collab is a coaching network. I work with other coaches to develop programs that I think our clients, corporate clients, organizations need. So I have 27 years of corporate experience. I worked in IBM and Schneider Electric, and way back, Anderson Consulting or Accenture. And the work I was doing almost always had to do with change, systems level change. I was participating in a lot of leadership development work as a manager. And I took the initiative to hire a coach, internal coach, because she said she was a coach and she worked with people. And I said, well, I need you to work with me and my team. So I hired her, and then she pulled me in to a coach training that IBM held on site for about 27 people globally. So I got very lucky, plucked out of into this program. And that was just life transforming for me, because I went through and I got certified as a coactive coach through CTI, the Coaches Training Institute. That was in 2002. I started the training. I think I was certified in 2005, but I stayed in the line of business.
An inconvenient push.
2006 was the year that, I know I'm telling a really long story. It's probably boring, but 2006 was the year, if you remember, An Inconvenient Truth was released.
Right. I can't believe it was that long ago. When you say that, that's a long time.
It was that long ago. I took my kids to see the movie and I hadn't seen it. So we walked out of the theater and she said, "Mom, I don't know if I want to have kids."
Right.
I was like really shocked. What did you think about the movie? "Mom, I don't know if I want to have children." And I said, "Well, Kelsey," I was like, what did I do to my child? "Kelsey, luckily you don't have to make that decision right now or anytime soon. And I just want you to know that really good people are working on this, including me." Which had like a 10% truth in it. Like I was beginning to go in that direction. I was beginning to be part of the Green Army. We called it bottoms up Green Army at IBM. But I then kind of like turned up the volume on that and began to really look at ways that I could catalyze change as an intrapreneur inside of IBM, which if you can change a ship the size of IBM, just a few degrees, you can make a huge impact in terms of carbon footprint, energy footprint. And that's exciting.
Well, and it's interesting because working with change agents, whether or not they're sustainability driven or not, since change is a core principle of sustainability, and activating change is a core principle, you're working in the sustainability sphere.
But no, when you're developing, helping teams to work better together, to communicate better with each other. By the way, they take that home to their families. How do they communicate better with their families and in their communities? And the light bulbs are going off in terms of, wow, I didn't realize I showed up that way. I didn't realize I had that impact on other people. And so we're really developing consciousness, creating a higher level of consciousness inside of companies. And I don't think that can be a bad thing.
Leadership and self-deception.
I think one of the best things that you ever did for me was recommend reading that book, Leadership and Self-Deception. And I literally tell people, anybody that I know is having like an interpersonal relationship, whether it's at home or in the office or wherever, I'm like, you have to read this book. It's the best book. It's going to change your mind on everything. Yeah. And it was so valuable for me to kind of take that step back and look, not just at, okay, so this is me and what I'm feeling, but this is what this other person could potentially be going through, or I at least need to be aware that they might be going through something that needs me to be a little gentler.
Not data nor marketing.
We all think that it's all about marketing. Oh, if we put this on our website, people are just going to come and get it. They're going to understand it. Oh, sustainability doesn't have traction because we just need to generate more data and tell people more of the good stuff. No, you need to talk to people in a way that they can actually hear. And in order to do that, you have to understand what's bothering them and what they had for breakfast in the morning, just to be able to connect.
Meeting people where they are.
The improv principles a lot of coaches and facilitators use: meet, point, dance. Meet them where they're at, right? Yeah. Like really, truly, not just pretend to hear them or to see them or acknowledge their point of view. Like really try to get into their mindset and really understand. That's hard to do with compassion. And then if they feel heard and seen and appreciated, and I'm not always good at that, I can tell you. And I think that the more I love or care about the people around me, the harder it is sometimes to drop my own agenda. But if I can do that and I can meet them where they're at, and I really, then they might care enough to listen or to let me point them in another, have you thought about this perspective? But until I've done that first piece, which is incredibly hard, especially in a fast-paced world where we're all under pressure, and maybe we haven't been as mindful as we can be about our own, way of showing up. then we're not going to make a lot of progress as change leaders.
The box.
Leadership and self-deception. You're in the box or you're out of the box. So if you're out of the box, you don't have like an agenda, you're not triggered. You're not in a trigger, you're in an open space. Then you can really talk about almost anything. But we go in the box really easily. And in the box just means that we're on our own agenda in a sense. And we are seeing the other person not as a person. We're
Right.
seeing them in one of three ways. We're seeing them as an obstacle, something, not even a person, that's in our way. We see them as a vehicle, a way to get our way,
Right.
a way to further our needs, or we see them as irrelevant.
Irrelevant. Okay, good.
Irrelevant. You don't mean anything to me. I don't even need to pay attention to you.
The Enneagram.
The thing is, it's really tricky stuff because
Very tricky.
and that's where the deeper work I do with people comes in, is with the Enneagram, really helping people to understand what their core motivation is as an individual, what their core fears are that are so buried under the waterline, like we don't even realize that this is kind of motivating us and driving us, and what unique things trigger them that don't necessarily trigger other people. So we all have our own hot buttons, our very own special ones.
Beware, a label.
In sustainability, and this is a gross generalization on my part, I have always felt, and I've been involved in sustainability for as long as I can remember, so pre-2000 easily. I think one of the reasons I've always felt comfortable in this world, even though it's a lot of work and a lot of convincing and a lot of change, is that it seems to be a more gracious world and more people are out of the box, per your description. More people seem to me to be more aware, or at least more open to ideas that are beyond what they know. Do you find that or no?
I think it's really interesting because what we can set up there is can be a little dangerous, a little bit of an us sustainability folks versus them.
Yeah.
And so is it true? There's an openness to experience, I think, that many that are in the sustainability space share, and there's a future focus that many share, and that will be shared by certain Enneagram types as well, for example.
Jonathan Haidt.
Why are we wired the way we're wired? And he talks about, and he does a TED talk about it, which basically says, well, if you're here, by definition, you're probably open to, he reads the definition of TED, openness to ideas. And so, we're going to come with a more progressive democratic kind of leaning if you're a US citizen, democratic, right? And that's just because that's what we're attracted to. But he does talk about, it's called the moral matrix is some of his work about how we all from birth are really wired with the 5 same core values. It's just that as we grow up, like conservatives versus progressives or liberals, the order of those 5 is different, and how they're expressed through us is different. So we all have openness to ideas and openness to, but it's not as important as maybe security or safety to some, like there's a difference in how they're stacked, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I actually really appreciate you cautioning me about making that generalization. And it also made me realize that I was talking about the people, when really maybe what I was talking about is the nature of the realm of sustainability being a world where people are driven to be more open or pre-selected to be more open through the work they're doing.
Passion only gets us so far.
Melissa, what you do in your work is you focus so much on bringing out the authentic individual.
Ooh, that's good.
But why is that so important? Why is it so important in general? I think maybe most of us Can kind of guess that. And then why is it even more important in the world of sustainability?
Well, so I'll reframe that a little bit as I try to help people to become more self-aware and to be able to express their full potential, their most authentic, part of themselves. What I've learned along the way is that where that helps us and hurts us, it's really interesting because ask me 10 years ago and I would have said purpose-driven organizations, lead from your authentic core, passion rules, find your passion. And I still do believe those things. I also believe that we can roll over people with our passion and our purpose, but we're right. Let's go. Damn you all, get out of my way. So it doesn't really enable large scale change. We can get only so far with that purpose and passion. So self-awareness takes it sort of to that next level of, okay, so what's the other side of my coin? Me as a leader, me as a human, how do I show up in ways that actually hurt my cause, hurt my purpose? How do I step on my own, toe or put my foot in my own mouth?
Right.
And so that's that like next level up of, if I really want to have be intentional about the impact I'm having in the world, self-awareness of both my strengths but also my blind spots and my triggers and sort of, some people call it my shadow, so important.
Stop the us versus them.
I'm looking more and more to find ways to sort of break up the us versus them party, and it's hard. It's hard.
Well, one of the things you said was to leave the elections behind. However, I'm worried that we're going to leave the elections behind and think that everything is fixed, when really what we have to do is break down the us, them, and seek to understand each other and heal some of the divides that created the last 4 years.
Regenerative leadership.
This is a great book. It's called Regenerative Leadership by Giles Hutchins and Laura Storm. They're two European thought leaders in this space. But it is, why I love this book. And it's one of the ones where I don't finish or read every page of most books that I have. I'm like, oh, I know all the pieces that they put together for this. So I can just go right to the tools. And then I read through that. I'm like, wow, this is good stuff. I got to go back and read more. So it's a powerful book, and it combines things like Frederick Laloux's book on reinventing organizations. If you haven't read that one, that's really great stuff. There's also a great Agile for All video on reinventing organizations that I often use. It's like 9 minutes, and you can get the gist of that, the ideas from the book in that one video, which is excellent.
Pending launch.
Lauren, your head's gonna explode.
I know, you're like saying so many words right now that are a lot to me in my resolution. So I'm very excited. I'm sorry. So I'm sorry, launching something? What are we launching?
Oh, yeah. So, well, this is what part of what COVID did. COVID got me off the planes and off the road, and what it and had me think about, how do I do the transformational work that I do with individuals and teams, but do it online. I piloted something with a coaching colleague of mine, Heidi Kraft. She's awesome. She lives in San Francisco. The poor woman lives alone, and this has been really hard, but she's had a few COVID buddies. And anyway, we worked together to launch something called Navigating Uncertainty with the Enneagram, and we launched it for free in April. We did a free cohort, a pilot cohort, 8 weeks in April. So sorry if darn, Lauren, I might have even invited you to it. And if I didn't, I'm really sorry, because it was great.
I don't know that you did, but that's
okay. Oh, you should have been on my list. I'm sorry.
You know what? There are so many opportunities. They'll come around again.
It was really, we got great feedback, and we said, okay, we need to do this again, but we can't really, that's not the way we make our living. We can't do it for free. It has to be financially sustainable. And we really want this work for our clients.
Head, heart, and gut.
We included in that one some polyvagal theory, which is brain research or brain. It's basically information on how our nervous system reacts, and keeps us safe in a sense. And one of the other books that I'm working on right now is Your Brain is Your Body, and this connection between our head, heart, and gut intelligence, because we do have intelligence, 3 intelligence centers, 3 sets of nerve bundles where there is intelligence. And if we're only acting from head or only acting from heart or only acting from gut, then we're not really bringing our full intelligence and in a coherent way forward.
It's so nice to have someone else say that out loud and know it's a thing.
It's definitely a thing. It's a big thing.
Yeah, when you have one-on-one calls with Melissa, she'll ask you like where something's coming from right now, and you have to just be like, my gut, my gut's saying it.
So wholeness, the idea of showing up with your whole self, not just, the part of our brain we like, which is the frontal cortex.
Oh yeah, right.
The reasoning mind.
Right, of course. It's all very easy to put on paper and say, oh, I like that. Right?
Then the darn amygdala shows up and it gets triggered, and fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and it all goes to hell.
Regenerate you.
Regenerate you.
Cool.
Doesn't that sound good?
Sounds great.
It's an online professional development, personal mastery community, but for people that work inside of organizations, to really do the work on their own and not have to rely on the corporate program that may or may not be there this year. But it's also for, companies can sponsor their folks into it as well. And so the folks that have gone through navigating uncertainty and have done that 8-week program with us, we're inviting them as alumni into this community, Regenerate You. And we have a common thread that the Enneagram is a tool that we will use for learning in that community, but it's not the only tool, because really the objective is to really, grow our own consciousness, to become more masterful in how we work together with other people. And I think my experience is that we do that best in community, in relationship.
Creating the team.
The first question is, Melissa, what do you feel is the biggest kind of initiative that's out there right now? What's the biggest cause that we should all be aware of in your world, and that should be in our world too?
When I was working on changing companies, what I noticed was that we focused most on like process change and technology change and structure change, the things we could see. But in fact, the best transformation initiatives either failed or succeeded depending on how well did the team work together that was trying to enable them. So I believe that actually learning to work better together around important change is our biggest job right now as human beings.
Having hard conversations.
I teach a course at a local college. I struggle because so much of architecture, for example, is really born out of, racial injustice. And I feel the need to navigate what I feel is a difficult conversation, because I have a grouping of students that I know probably went to public school and did not get accurate or at least complete and comprehensive education. And then I have, other students that I'm trying to make sure that I'm using all of the right language and, say the right things and convey the right meaning. But look at me, and am I really the right representative to be having this conversation? So that's something that I struggle with. I love teaching the class. It's so important. And I love the messaging, but I struggle very much with, okay, what's the right balance for me?
It's great that you're making that attempt, that you're trying to meet them where they're at. You're conscious of maybe where their mindset is, and giving them opportunities, hopefully, to talk about some of these things. Yeah.
Look to braver angels.
Okay. And our next question is, who's your hero?
I really admire people that are bridge builders right now. I think there's a lot of bridges to be built. and figurative, but as well as physical bridges. People that are willing to cross the aisle and have difficult conversations. People that are convening groups to have and support people in having difficult conversations and helping them work through things. I really admire the founders of Braver Angels, because they're doing incredible work with an all volunteer organization.
Yeah.
Really incredible work. They stepped up in 2016 after the last election, two friends, a Democrat and Republican, who said, listen, this is not okay. We're making war with people, with next door neighbors. You know, we can't talk to each other anymore. We've got to find a way to reduce the polarization in our society and in the United States in particular. And they started a not-for-profit. They piloted a workshop in Ohio, and they have gone and they reformulated everything during the pandemic to be available online. And it's amazing stuff. They do online debates with reds and blues. They use that terminology, and they are really pushing for leadership at all levels in their organization to be red blue partners.
Curiosity.
I've been so curious. I've been very curious, especially recently, as you know, we've gone through this next cycle of elections, and wondering, how could you vote for that person? And at this point, it comes from a genuine place of curiosity. And it started some really interesting conversations that when both sides can kind of come into it and be very level-headed and calm and not maybe preconceived on what the other person's thinking, when you actually start to dissect the conversation that starts to happen, there's actually a lot of commonalities in what people want. We're just using very different language.
Yep.
And what I've been learning is that honestly, we're more similar than dissimilar. We're just not saying it the same way.
Yeah.
And our way of accomplishing what we think is important might be different. Our methods or approaches might be different. Correct. A lot of times we do want a lot of the same things. Not all and not in the same order.
Right.
Yeah. And so rehumanizing each other, ourselves to each other, is so important right now. It's more work, right?
Melissa turns the tables.
I would love to ask you guys, what was your biggest aha or like the thing that you're bringing forward into the new year? I'm really curious.
Yeah, my biggest aha, it took 2 weeks when I absolutely hated working from home. I abhorred it. I was in tears almost every single day. And then somehow it clicked. And now I never want to go back to the office. I find it amazing that I've got close to an hour a day that I don't have to travel. And my husband and I have been walking together pretty much every night, except for tonight because he's already walking without me. But
yeah, we kept it on.
But that is a huge revelation to me. We used to live in Petersburg, New York. We used to drive almost an hour in separate cars each way into the city to work and an hour home. And when we moved into Albany and my commute was down to 20 minutes each way or 15 minutes each way, it felt like a huge revelation. This revelation of working from home, this is the next big thing for me, is knowing that I don't have to, I'm a social person, but I can be social without being in real space with each other.
Yeah, interesting.
Fascinating. I've reconnected with people worldwide that I had lost connection with. I traveled with people from 22 different countries for a year 30 years ago, and I never connected with them until this past year.
That's crazy. That's really something.
For me, it's just my major thing moving forward is just to basically live as authentically as possible. I'm trying to find this really nice balance of where I've got a lot more kind of happiness and fun in my life and a lot less to-do list to take care of. And so it's funny because in the book that you were talking about, I kind of have this, it was the 4 Wands. I went through and I read this book called I Know I'm in There Somewhere. And it's come out of years of just not feeling like myself. as
Mm.
Melissa also knows. And so in not feeling like myself, I've been really kind of doing this work to figure out like, where the heck did I go? Like where did I disappear to? I've been sitting here the whole time. How did I lose it? And so I read this book, and there was this exercise where you're supposed to write down, you give yourself 15 minutes to write down every single want you have in the entire world. It can be anything from something that's a commodity to just a job you want or an education you want or whatever it is. And then you hone in on like the 4 that make you the most excited.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went through my 4, but there was kind of this 5th thing that was just sort of nagging me and nagging me and nagging me. And I'm like, I don't care what the book says. I'm writing down my 5th one. And the 5th one was to find my flow. Like, I just want to find this place where everything just feels supernatural, like the universe is sending it to me, I'm processing it and, doing what I need to with it, and then I move on. That's the goal for the year.
This has been Subject to Change.
Thank you for joining us. And I'm Jodi Smits-Anderson, and we have had the pleasure of interviewing Melissa O'Mara. So thank you very much for joining us, Melissa. I've learned a ton.
Me too.
My pleasure. It was great to do this conversation, this nice, fun, informal, and what a great time to have this kind of a conversation. So thanks for allowing me to be your first guest of the year.
Yeah.
May it be an awesome one for both of you.
Absolutely.
Yes, you as well.
All
Thank
right.
you so much. And to everyone out there, we'll see you next week. Thanks.
Thanks again to Melissa O'Mara. And this has been Lauren and Jodi with Subject to Change.